All right, members, if you get in your seats, we're going to start in 1 minute. All right. All right, members, we're going to call joint budget to order. We're going to do a little housekeeping first, kind of let you know how this is going to flow today. We do have committees at 10 o'clock. We're going to pass over to item 5, C5. We're going to do that at the very end. We're going to take care of our other business on the front end. And when we get to item 5, we're going to have a question per member and a follow-up. And then we're going to move on to somebody else to get everybody have opportunity. We're not going to let today 3, 4, 5, 6 questions go. So a question and one follow-up, get out of it. Then when you can get back in the queue, if we have time, our plan is to get to 9:35 to have discussion on the bill after we have all the questions and testimony, and then from members, and then have the debate and try to have the debate by 9:50 so we can be out to our A and B committees at 10 o'clock. So anyway, with that, we're going to get started with item B1. See, let me get up here on discussions. Senator Davis, are you giving that report? If you'll, all righty. You are recognized, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The JBC Personnel Subcommittee met Tuesday, March 18th. The committee suspended the rules to add an amendment to the pay plan that only added an additional sponsor. The committee adopted the amendment, then adopted a motion of due pass as amended for the pay plan bill. The committee also took up a member amendment for ASU Jonesboro to rectify an error that had inadvertently omitted 3 existing positions from the budget manual during the fall hearings. I move adoption of the report at the proper time.
We have adoption of the report. Do we have a second? We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Members, in that report, Senate Bill 392 is ready to be due pass as amended. Do I have a motion? Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Amendment is adopted as due pass as amended. Special language, Representative Johnson, you're recognized to give the report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Special language met on Tuesday, March 18th. We adopted 3 amendments to House Bill 1202, which is the Department of Finance Administration dispersing officer. We also released 3 bills out of special language back to Budget Committee. House Bill 1389, the DHS Division of Developmental Disabilities, Jonesboro HCC. House Bill 1577, Department of Commerce Insurance Department. And House Bill 1635, DFNA dispersing. It's a grant for teaching veteran hospital at the Little Rock Zoo. You'll find these attachments from the adopted subcommittee report, pages 2 through 8, and I move for adoption of the report.
Have a motion to adopt the special language report. Do I have a second? I have a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Report is adopted. We're going to B3. Senator Hammer, you have that report. You are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The peer review subcommittee met yesterday, March 19th. The subcommittee received reports, reviewed requests, and approved the following: various temporary appropriations, American Rescue Plan Act appropriation, and a restricted reserve fund transfer. And I move for the adoption of the report.
You've heard the report. I got a motion to adopt. Do I have a second? I have a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Report is adopted. We're going to item C1. Mr. Anderson, you'll give a brief description.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item C1, this is by Senator English. This is an amendment to Senate Bill 132. This is the approved claims bill. This changes the source of funds for Veterans Affairs to a cash fund from GR.
You good to go, Senator English? All right. Do we have a motion to adopt the amendment? Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Amendment is adopted. Mr. Anderson. And Senate Bill 132 is ready. Due pass is amended. Do we have a motion? Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That takes us to item C2. This is an amendment by Representative Kavanaugh to Senate Bill 106, Department of Agriculture. This creates a $136,000 increase for the 68 county fairs.
Representative Kavanaugh? Hold on. Push the wrong button. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What this does is keep AYE at $48,000 and then give each county fair $2,000. And inside a Department of Ag, they already have money to cover part of this cost.
How much part?
How much? About $30,000.
Okay.
So it's about $100,000 hit.
Out of GR?
It would be out of. I'd have to find the funding.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You've heard the explanation. Is this ready? We need a motion on the amendment. Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Amendment is adopted. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next item is item C3. That's on page 8 in your packet. This is Senate Bill 93, Department of Education. This adds a new appropriation section for $1 million out of cash funds.
All right. I don't see Lee here. Any discussion on this amendment? It's not GRs. We had that to find it out of cash funds. Do we have a motion to adopt? Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item C4, it's on page 12. This has special language.
Go to the Special Language Subcommittee. We'll skip over 5 to the end. We're going to start on the governor's letters. I think we've got 3 governor's letters we need to make action on. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item D1 is governor's letter number 27. That's on page 1. This is an amendment to Senate Bill 92, Transformation and Shared Services Geographic Information Systems Office. It adds an appropriation for $450,000.
Any questions on governor's letter 27? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Let's skip down to governor's letter 29.
Mr. Chairman, governor's letter 29 is on page 7 in your packet. This is an amendment to Senate Bill 93, Department of Education, to add various appropriations for adequacy costs.
Okay. Any questions on governor's letter 29? We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? We're going to skip down to governor's letter 36.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That is on page 51 in your packet. Governor's letter number 36. This is an amendment to House Bill 1200, Department of Energy and Environment, Environmental Quality. This adds a federal appropriation for $1.5 million, and it adds a cash fund appropriation for $5 million.
Any question on governor's letter 36? Seeing none, have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Governor's letter 36 is adopted. Members, on governor's letter 28, it has special language. We'll send that to special language. On governor letter 30, it has personnel in it. We'll send that to personnel subcommittee, as well as governor letter 31. It will go to personnel. Governor letter 32 has personnel and special language. We'll send those to both those committees. And also governor letter 33 has personnel and special language. We're skipping over governor letter 34, and governor's letter 35 has personnel, and we'll send that to personnel. And that does it till we get, all right, we're back down on item 5. This is Senate Bill 354. Senator Dismang, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, just a brief history on this. I think we're all aware, but on February 27th, there was a governor's letter that would have, that was an appropriation or allowed for the allowed for an appropriation for the amount that had previously been allocated, roughly $330 million. This committee did not approve that, and I think the major understanding that I and my chair had was from the committee that they wanted to know the amount. So there was a letter produced from the consultant estimating the total cost of the prison to be $825 million. We already have $75 million set aside, and so this appropriation reflects the remaining estimated construction cost of $750 million. Again, just on a timeline history, we wanted to make sure that members that had questions had time to ask those questions from the appropriate entity, whether it be the Department of Corrections or the Governor's Office or DFA. And so this bill was originally filed on March 3rd so that those questions could be asked, to the appropriate entities. But with that, I will stop and we'll move on to the question portion.
All right. Just to save time, if the department will come up to the table. DF&A, y'all need to come to the table? Well, we may need some financial questions asked. And when everybody gets to the table, identify yourselves, and then we've got questions ready to go. And remember, members, one question, one follow-up, get out of the queue so other people can ask questions, and we'll come back to you.
Jim Hudson, Secretary, DFA.
Robert Breck, DFA.
Good morning, Joe Porfirio, Advisor, Office of the Governor.
Okay. First question is Senator Hickey. You're recognized, sir.
Yes, sir. Mine's not for that. Mine was for Senator Dismang. He said that we were going to have a timeline since this was happening. If you wouldn't mind, Senator Dismang, would you go ahead and talk about the amendment that I had and how it was failed this morning and what it did so that the members fully understand that? Because that is part of what has transpired in the timeline.
Senator Hickey has introduced a couple of different amendments. There was an initial amendment, I think, that you can explain your own amendments. Yeah, but there was an amendment that was presented in special language this morning. There was a motion by Senator Hickey to adopt the amendment, and there was no second for the amendment, so the amendment died for fail of a second.
Thanks. Since we're saying what all has transpired, the amendment that I had would have set up two separate accounts. One of them would have been for $750 million, which was exactly what the appropriation was, and it was not going to increase that appropriation. Then we were going to have another set-aside account for $250 million that was going to say for prison construction and contingencies, which in the event that we had any cost overruns, that money could come out of that. But in addition, a lot of the sheriffs and the county judges are saying that, with the way this prison is probably going to take 4 to 5 years to build, that there's a possibility that we may have to go out and try to find some short-term beds somewhere. The money could come out of that. What that would allow us to do, because there's been a whole lot of talk and controversy here as far as, whether or not we can build this prison or not. The governor is adamant with me that she feels like she can. I don't know that anybody can predict where we're going to be, with how long this is going to be and the way the economy is right now. Again, we have the money right now. The reason that I want to do that is we're spending a lot of money down here. I want to make sure that we had the cash available from now to the end, that we can park that money and it would be there and we would never have to do anything different or try to take something out of one of our catastrophic funds or the Arkansas fund. So
Thank you, Senator. And members, I probably should have clarified, this is appropriation only. There is no direct funding tied to this. We do have a set aside for $330 million. At this current moment, I am certain, as we do at the conclusion of every session, we will have an extensive discussion about how much additional dollars should be allocated to have in hand for the prison. One of the things to keep in mind, both with that fund and what we do moving forward, at this point, that fund has a 3/5 vote requirement by ALC. So again, there is technically no funding tied to this appropriation. This is an appropriation which is the estimated cost of the prison, which is the responsibility of the governor's office to bring forward, or actually I'd say the Department of Corrections. We keep saying it's the governor's office, but this is an action of the Department of Corrections for a capital project.
Senator King, you're recognized for a question and a follow-up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Mr. Preferi, have you been getting my emails that I've been sending to you?
I get several emails. I believe that I may have gotten some emails from you.
So you have got some emails from me?
I have received emails from you, yes, sir.
So I haven't received any answers that I know of. So I asked the question, like the Board of Corrections, they gave the $75 million for the Calico Rock expansion, and then there was, my understanding was that you or the governor's office or somebody that they wanted, that was going to be $115 million to expand Calico Rock for 525 beds. That was $219,000 per bed. Now you went up from $470 million. If it is 3,000 beds, which is no way, for 825, that's $275,000 per bed. So why did you or who shut down the Calico Rock expansion for a lot less money than what is being proposed with this other prison?
Thank you for the question, Senator. The Calico Rock expansion was done under a previous administration. The current administration pivoted and moved to effectively create the necessary capacity versus a expansion of Calico Rock, which would not have solved the current problem that we're having with capacity issues at the Department of Corrections. And that pivot was from that expansion to the construction of a 3,000-bed facility, which will ultimately alleviate the county jail backup.
Yeah, well, there's no way that they're getting 3,800 people to work. But so basically, did you and the governor's office is the one that shut down the expansion at Calico Rock? Is that correct?
We're expanding the Department of Corrections capacity through the construction of a 3,000-bed facility. So the expansion of corrections is occurring. It just happens to not be occurring at Calico Rock.
All right. Senator King, that's two questions. We're going to go to somebody else that has questions first. Anybody else have questions? You get back in the queue if you want to ask another question. Senator Hester. Well, let's go to Representative Wooten first. Representative Wooten, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me make a statement first. I shared with the chairman this morning, Representative Jean, that I regret to have to be a no vote. And I want Senator Dismayne to know that too. It disturbs me greatly. But my question is, for you, is how come the Secretary of the Prison System on Thursday, 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, could not answer any of my questions relative to the cost? Then on Monday, we get a number of $825 million, and we find out that we're spending $16 million to have a construction person from California come and be involved in a 3,000-bed prison here. So what happened over the 4 or 5 days there that they could answer one question? The total cost was put at $825, which I feel is still could be $200 to $400 million short of what we need. And I am not opposed to a prison system construction of a 3,000-bed facility, but I am concerned, as Senator Hickey pointed out, the fiscal responsibility that I feel has not been met. So why could they answer the questions on Monday, but they couldn't on Thursday?
Representative Wooten, I wish I had a good answer for you with regards to what your questions may have been to Secretary Wallace and her ability to answer those questions. I don't.
Well,
I can tell you that the owner's representative has expressed, based on their analysis of the current situation, construction climate, and all things considered, that their estimated price tag for this 3,000-bed facility will be $825 million.
Is it 2,000 or 3,000?
3,000 beds, sir.
So is that my limit?
That's your two questions. You get back in the queue.
All right, thank you.
Senator Hester, you're recognized.
So, Mr. Profuri, I understand that in your vast career, you have overseen in a leadership position, at least 3 different prison builds. Can you tell me, did any of those 3 come in at budget?
Yes, sir. Over the course of my career, almost 4 decades in corrections, took the Department of Corrections that I served for from 16,000 beds to 44,000 beds over that period. We built state facilities. The largest facility constructed was 6,000 beds, another 5,000 bed facility, 3,500 bed facility, and then additional add-ons to prisons that we had, as well as public-private partnerships that brought us to that capacity at the point that I left of 44,000. Of those prisons that we constructed, none went over budget, ultimately for 2 reasons, because you couldn't go over budget. You built to the budget, and that's what you did. If you ran into issues associated with your budget, then you had to engage in processes associated with construction to potentially alleviate capacity to stay on budget, or with that particular elected body was committed to corrections and bed capacity. They knew that passing laws in the state that resulted in incarceration also required an investment in correction. So if there were issues that were unforeseen, whether it was economic, through labor cost, construction, material, inflation, then we would approach the legislature and they would decide whether they added more money to that particular project to reach the capacity or not.
So 3 times in your career, you met budget on prison builds. You met budget because the legislature gave you so much money, and that's what you had to work with, and you honored it 3 times because the legislature decided how much money, not you.
That's correct, sir.
Thank you.
Senator Gilmore, you're recognized for a question and a follow-up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Secretary, over this way, sir. Thank you for being here. Thanks for answering our questions. So I just want to sort of follow up because we hear a lot of talk down here about how much this is going to cost. We've had crazy figures thrown out at $1.5 billion. We've had people talk about how there was the original cost estimate was $470 or some odd dollars. So there's a lot of numbers been thrown out, but we have a number now from the owner's rep that's $825. Is that correct?
That's correct, Senator.
Okay, and so with that, as my follow-up, there are ways to make sure that we maintain that estimate and we're coming in within the constraint set, meaning there's a lot of things that we can do, a lot of levers we can pull to control those costs. And in controlling those costs, there's a lot of things we look at, from bed mix to programming areas to understanding and making sure that we're addressing everything that we should with pro-social behaviors and having spaces where we can rehabilitate. All of those type of things are factored into this. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And would you elaborate a little bit on that?
So in prison design, to meet your budget, you have to evaluate what you're constructing. You can construct a house of straw, a house of sticks, or a house of stones. You want a house of stone when you're building a prison. It is a generational facility that's going to serve public service for 50 to 100 years. So it's a large investment, but it has a long lifespan. And in building that prison, you determine, do you want celled environments? Do you want dorm environments? Dorm environments are cheaper than celled environments. Do you want single person cells? Do you want double person cells? Your square footage is relevant associated with that. If you do a 2-man cell and add 4 square feet to that cell, meeting effective accreditation standards, then you can reduce your cost while still providing effective incarceration through a 2-man cell versus a single-person cell, which then would require more cells to equal that 3,000 bed capacity and more square footage, which then drives your cost.
Senator Stubberfield, you're recognized for a question and a follow-up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Profuri, you said you built 3 prisons under budget or within the budget that was given to you?
That's correct, sir.
What year was that?
So the last prison that we built was in 2008.
2008. So that is let's see, this is 2025. That's a long time ago, isn't it?
That's the last state prison facility we built. We effectuated public-private partnerships as well as expansions of our prison system at existing facilities past that particular date.
I'm going to ask every colleague in here, if you bought a piece of land and you were going to build you a house, would you give the contractor a blank check and say, go build this house? There's not one project that I've been down here and seen that didn't go over budget. I promise you, this one will go over budget. What are you going to do, Mr.
Senator,
Fury?
that's your follow-up.
All right.
All right. Senator Bryant, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Furry, I looked at Veneer, who is our consultant that you've engaged on. They've done over $30 billion of projects just like these, government, institutional, prisons, with an 85% repeat business rate. Do you feel comfortable with what your experience are with them today, that they can meet that objective, and maybe we would want to do business with them in the future, but for now, they can hit the objective of what they've sent us as to the cost?
Yes, sir. I do believe that they are a professional company, that they are well-versed in this space, and I would rely on them and their estimates associated with this project.
Thank you.
Senator Blake Johnson, you're recognized for a question and a follow-up.
Over here. So the timeline in construction, what was that timeline in the, complete construction whenever you had built those prisons?
So the 5,000 bed facility that we constructed was about a 6-year timeline from start to finish. And we activated prisons as we went. So, if you will, 5,000 beds was 5 1,000 bed facilities on a single campus. And through the economy of scale associated with having all the work there and all the tradesmen there, we brought one facility up at a time. And as, say, the concrete work finished, they would move to the next facility, start that, while other tradesmen went into the facility that the concrete work had been finished in, and they would start doing their relative work associated with that. So despite having 5,000 beds over 6 years, we activated our first facility within about 18 months.
So with the estimated 3,000 bed and $825 million estimate, do you think the construction will be anywhere close to completion whenever this body comes back in 2027?
Yes, it is the intent to activate a facility in the end of 26 or the beginning of 2027. That will not finish the entire project, but certainly will activate a facility as the targeted goal, with a final completion date of the entire project in late 2029.
Representative Springer, you're recognized for a question and a follow-up.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess my question is being directed to you. I've received numerous phone calls and emails regarding this issue, and I'm advised in those emails that the residents of Franklin County are being denied the opportunity to participate in this process, particularly in this meeting today. Would you please explain to them why? Can you give a response as to why public comment is not being made here in this particular setting?
We historically, and I'm not talking about when we go through joint budget in the fall on the hearings, we get input there, but historically we have never allowed public comment and joint budget while we're in session. That has not happened.
Okay, so that's what we're telling the public now, so they can understand
Yes.
that that's not historically been the case. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, let's see where we're at. Senator Hill, you're recognized for a question and a follow-up. You ought to be on
Thank
now.
you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Porfiry, you made a comment just a while ago, depending on what you're building, whether it be a straw, stick, etc. on this. Well, you know as well as I do that a prison is a house of steel. And with the tariffs that have been put on steel right now, is that 25 million that y'all are talking about, does that include the tariffs, which more than likely will stay, if not the entire 25%, to keep U.S. steel competitive with the Chinese steel? Are y'all figuring that into this budget, or are we actually 25% short?
The $825 million budget does have contingencies in there associated with construction costs as well as owner holdback contingencies, which I believe are north of $100 million each. So though it may not include tariffs if they are enacted or what the impact of that is on the price of steel, contingencies associated with construction costs are included in the budget.
So you have $100 million that's there for overruns, basically, is what you're saying. So of that, if we're looking at roughly $250 million on 25%. That seems to me like that's a little short for any other type of overruns if that hits in, if the tariffs stay at a 10 or 15%.
I understand your point. The contingencies that are built into the budget are about 5% to 8%, depending on that. And if the inflation goes up or tariffs or other acts that we can't control, then we will tap into those contingencies to endeavor to mitigate those costs.
Senator Rice, you're recognized for a question and a follow-up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Fury, this project is going to require, to the best that people can look at it, miles of water lines, wastewater plant, ponds for the wastewater plant, rebuild of highways that don't have base that I'm told that they're going to need, redoing the highways. If RDOT's expected to pay for that, that's going to take away from some other projects they've got on their 5-year plan to do. And all these things go into the cost of the prison. That's what the taxpayers are concerned about, is the bottom line of what it's going to cost, not what the building's going to cost, not what everything within inside the fence is. The prison is the whole project, and that's not what I'm hearing that we're talking about. What you have stated is that, and I'm not questioning your experience, but what we're looking at and seeing is Building 101. What does Building 101 say? In this project, it says you buy a piece of land before you do due diligence. And that may not have been your decision, but they bought a piece of land for $3 million before due diligence was done because it was available to buy. Can you tell us what the total cost is going to be in a range, not just what the person and company said is $825 million? All this other stuff that the taxpayers are going to have to pay for to make this project work. What kind of range do you see on that?
Senator, I can tell you that the estimate for this project, which includes utilities, is $825 million. I don't have a figure for you as to what those utilities are going to cost, because that will come ultimately with the engineering side of this, which we are currently underway on. There are a range of options associated with utilities. There's the potential for drilling wells for water. There's also the potential for running transmission lines from available water sources to provide the capacity needed for that water. Those price variants are different. And so depending on what the engineering side of the house says is most prudent, while on the fiscal side is most prudent fiscally, then that ultimately will determine the cost of water. Same with wastewater. Developing a wastewater treatment plant on site, self-contained at that facility, with either discharge of gray water under EPA standards to local waterway or through soak-away boreholes the engineering side of the house will determine that. And I don't have the specific figures associated with what each of those specific utilities will cost, but it's incorporated into the $825 million budget.
You're saying that the highways and all the water lines and all is included in that $825 million?
As utilities associated with the infrastructure to support that facility, wastewater, water, power, yes. Roadways, my understanding of roadways are the roadways there are no different than the roadways anywhere in the state. They're built to a specific standard, and there's no issue associated with whatever load that is going to be necessary to construct this facility with those roadways. Those roadways are no different than any roadway to any facility that we currently have in the state of Arkansas.
All right, Senator Hammer, you're going to be the last question, and we'll go to debate after we get let Senator Dismain close. You got the last question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In the discussion that Senator Bryant had about the previous contractor and 85% success rate, do you know if that contractor came in under budget on those projects, or do you have any knowledge of that?
Senator Hammer, I believe you're referring to Vanier, and I don't know about their budgetary process on previous projects.
Okay, and then question to the chair, just for clarification of something, please. Approval of the appropriation, there would still have to be a competitive bid process by any contractors that want to bid on this. And so as far as the cost above the $750, while they may know what we are appropriating, it's still going to be a competitive bid process that's going to have to come back before us for approval. Am I correct on that?
That'd be correct.
Is that correct, Senator Dismain? Okay, thank you.
All right, members, we're going to let Senator Dismain close for his bill.
No, I mean, I think we all understand. Again, I want to restate, this is the appropriation only. That does not have funding directly tied to that. That would be an additional discussion, even including the $330 million that's already been set aside in the restricted reserve. That would require a 3/5 vote. I think there's, I want to allow time for discussion. So with that, I move for due pass on Senate Bill 354.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a second. Any discussion? And that's what we'll start with. It's see who's at the top of the list. Senator Wooten. Excuse me, Representative Wooten. You're recognized. Well, let's try it again.
There you go. Thank you. Thank you for the promotion. I'm sure the senators would be thrilled to have me over there.
I think they would be in favor of having you in their number.
Well, let me say, again, I'm not opposed to a new prison, but the fiscal matters pertaining to the current recommendation and the current motion are lacking. We do not know what this is going to cost. And I have not heard anyone, and I had it down for my next question, I have not heard anyone address the operating cost of the penitentiary. You can call it a prison, you can call it a Department of Corrections, whatever you want to call it. But no one's talked about that. Let me tell you what the salaries will be. For 800 employees, which I don't think you can secure in that part of the state without reaching out way over into Oklahoma, will be $40 million. And that's an average of $50,000, which some will exceed that. But if $50,000 is your average salary, so anything above that is going to be more, but $40 million, $3 million payroll a month. We've already bought the land. No consideration has been given that I've been made aware of, and no discussion have I heard has been made aware. We've got plenty of land at Varner, Tucker, Cummins, enough land to build a new prison on that facility and use some of the infrastructure that's already there. Up here, we're going to have to build roads. We're going to have a complete new water treatment facility, sewer system, and everything that goes along with that rural development area of the state. And forget the fact that the people up there do not want it. Varner, Gould, those areas of this state, Tucker, they're used to having a penitentiary there.
Representative Wooten,
all right.
We've got 15 minutes on this. We've got 6 or 8 that want to say something.
Let me just finish up by saying, again, I'm not opposed, Mr. Chairman, to the construction of a new facility. We need it. We've got to have it. But we do not know the total cost as of yet. I know they've said $825 million, but that's not going to address it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Senator Stubblefield, you're recognized.
Thank you, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want you to know that we have no specific information on any of the engineering studies that's been done. I have spoken with RDOT. They've informed me that all those roads will have to have shoulders put on them. They will have to be redone because it won't take a chip and seal to fix them. And I would say to Mr. Porfiry that 18 years ago, concrete is a little bit higher today than it was 18 years ago, along with steel and every other thing you buy, including a commode handle, is 5 to 10 times higher. And not only that, one of the criteria for this prison to meet was to be close to a major interstate. We are 22 miles from the closest interstate, and there is no water in Ozark that's available because of a Cargill plant that is there, and they have to shut off customers whenever they're running at 100%. So where is the water going to come from? Are they going to have to go all the way to Fort Smith to get it? None of these figures have been told to us. This is all speculative. The numbers they're throwing out have no basis to back them up. And I will be voting no on this. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Hester, you're recognized.
Thank you. I think my point earlier with the question on Mr. Porfiry was 3 times in his career he's been given a number by the legislature, and he's honored that number. The cost of this prison will be what this body says it will be. It will not be what the executive branch says it will be. We're the appropriators. If we say the cost of this prison is $825 million, the cost of the prison will be $825 million. And that's what we're saying right now. The cost of this prison will be $825 million. I struggle to think, what if we don't build this prison? What is the cost to society? What are the costs to the people? How do we answer to the people at home when there's no misdemeanor justice? What is the cost to not do this? This body's saying it's $825 million. Mr. Porfiry has said he's done exactly what the legislature has told him to do 3 other times in his life. It didn't matter if it was 1 year ago or 20 years ago. It's not about the dollar amount. It's about honoring the respects of the legislature, honoring the budget that they gave him. He's done it 3 times. He'll do it again.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Hickey, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Obviously, I'm for the prison, or I would not have ran an amendment to set up 2 accounts, one of them being a contingency. I'm willing to even overlook some of my fiscal responsibility because I feel that we need the prison that bad. However, I sit here and I listen to this stuff about this vast experience that we have in the construction business, and we didn't even do the basic of things. I've done some of this in my life. The first thing anybody does, you go out and buy a piece of land, you do a site survey. You do a contingency on the contract to make 100% sure that you've got the utilities to service the thing, to make sure that that there's no environmental concerns, that there's not any Indian artifacts or something on the land. There are tons of things you do. As I heard Senator Rice say, that's building 101. So to sit here and tell me that you've got this great experience in doing this and you basically have flubbed the purchase is just insulting to me. And then in testimony, I believe Senator Hammer asked this, which was a great question. I hear that we haven't even looked at this consultant we've done to see how they have come in on their past estimates for prisons. That is unbelievable for me. Do I think we need a prison? Of course I do. Again, I did an amendment to try to make it so that we'd have the money, because this might be a 4 or 5 year project, but we don't want to listen to that or to try to do that to have the money in place. We just want to talk about how we're going to do this, and we can't even get the first step right.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you, sir. I don't oppose a prison, and I support this effort because the estimate is $825 million. This prison, part of it may be built by the time we come back as a body in 2027, but if the engineering and architecture and construction is over cost, we can address that at that time. But this is the time we're in. And 825 is what is needed at this time, and that's what I want to address at this time, and that's our responsibility as a legislature. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Boyd, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So what I do know is this legislature determines what's a crime. This legislature sets the penalties for crime. We in Sebastian County have instituted drug courts, mental health courts, crisis stabilization unit, crisis intervention training, done everything that I know of to try to figure out who belongs in jail, who belongs in prison, and who doesn't. But today, 46% of the inmates in Sebastian County Jail are state inmates. So at some point, and I know Sebastian County's not alone, we have to build a prison. So I'm going to vote for this today. Thank you.
All right, Senator Payton, we hadn't heard from you yet. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My dad always called it running off half-cocked. And it seems to me that that was the first step. We had a lot of money burning a hole in our pocket. Everybody agreed we wanted to build a prison. And I'm not sure that we made a wise business decision in where we're going to put it or how we started, but it did destroy a lot of us confidence in the people making the decision. And when we're talking about what could be $1 billion project, we need some confidence in how the decisions are going to be made. We need a prison, or maybe we need 3 prisons, but I remember 2 years ago, we had prison space that we could not take advantage of because we did not have staffing those prisons. In my business sense and all the experience that I've had hiring and organizing businesses around the state, I look at the location that's been chosen, and maybe we could build a 1,000-bed prison there and staff it, but I really think that we're going to build a 3,000-bed prison and may only be able to use 1,000 beds of it because we can't find the staff. And so that's what concerns me most, and that's why I think we need to slow down instead of running off half-cocked and pursuing what could be a major problem in the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Rice, you're recognized.
Thank you. I will thank Senator Payton for saying some things that's on my mind, but my fear is the way this project has been done to date, that we will spend mega millions and we'll find out we need more money to do it right. And again, the things that's not just within the fence is part of this project that the taxpayer is going to pay for. We're not saying no to a prison. I voted for the SAFE Act. I voted for a prison. But I'm trying to get some confidence, and Senator Payton said it for me. I've lost confidence in the people that are working on this, and now we're trying to fit the widget in whatever hole's left and that doesn't inspire confidence in me. I want the taxpayer to have some confidence too, and they've not been given the upfront information that they need just by saying we don't have it yet. But yet we're going to fund it, and we're going to get so far down the road with so much money that the legislature can't say no. We just got to pump more into it. That's my fear. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator King, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I gave the figures about the Malvern expansion at $219,000 per bed that they could have expanded, that the governor and Mr. Porfiry appears to have shut down. That's $219,000 per bed. What they're throwing out now, they originally said $470 million, no details. Now they're up to $825 million. And this is just a cover letter. It doesn't provide any details. There is nobody should in the real world accept giving you a price thing to build a building or a house or warehouse without any details. If you look at, we'll build a prison. Well, if you look at it, $825 million. If you get 3,000 beds, which is totally unrealistic, that's $275,000 per bed. If you go down to 2,000 beds and you get in the middle of this and you only do 2,000 beds, that's $412,000 per bed. If you go down to 1,500, which is more realistic in line with all these other things to ACA standards, you're talking about building $550,000 per bed. Once again, they're not providing any details, which should just set off bells and whistles and alarms. And I can tell you, there are a lot of alternatives that can be done in a more physically responsible way to take care of the problem than to just go down this financial boondoggle. Once you step into this, and these prison building companies, once again, they provide just a cover letter, no details of the roads, no details of water, no details of site preparation, nothing at all. I'm just telling you, I'd trust Dracula running a blood drive before I would trust prison building companies on keeping their estimates.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Stubblefield, you've got, on the clock on the wall, you've got 1 minute. You have the last word.
All right. Let me just say this. One of the big problems, and I've chaired penal and correctional institutions for 12 years, one of the biggest problems we have is staff. We cannot find people to work in these prisons. We bring in people from Mississippi. We're busting in people from all over. 60% of our guards are females. We can't get male guards to work in these facilities. In my area, the big part of those people are elderly, retired. They're not going to work in prisons. And another thing, you are going to wipe out every sheriff's deputies for a 20-county area because they're not going to work for $35,000 when they can make $50,000 and move up there. So we're going to be left without deputies to protect our counties while the prison has all the staff. This is and like Representative Wooten said, we will be going to Oklahoma, and we will be busting staff from Sallisaw and maybe even over to Shakota, all the way there to Charleston, Arkansas. There's a better option because there's a statute on the books right now that we passed when Governor Hutchinson was here that allowed counties to partner together on half-cent sales tax and build their jails there. And there's 6 or 7 counties that are producing the biggest part of the prisoners. Franklin County doesn't have, but you have other counties like Pulaski, Sebastian, Crawford, Jefferson. All these counties are producing all these prisoners. And yet we're having, every constituent in your district is going to be paying these ongoing costs. Like
Thank you, Senator.
Wooten said.
Thank you. Senator Tismang wants to close, and then we're going to let that member know. Senator Stubblefield's come and asked for the House to be divided. So after he gets through, I need to see 2 hands, along with Senator Stubblefield, and we'll divide the chambers, and we're going to start on the Senate end. Senator Tismang, you're recognized.
Right. One thing I just want to say it again because we keep talking about funding. This is not the funding. This is the appropriation. This is something that's required for a capital project to start a capital project. There was an estimation, or I guess the consultant came back with an $825 million number. This is the appropriation. There are stopgaps and stopgaps and stopgaps in front of us as we discuss funding along the way and how we're going to do that. This is not that. This is the appropriation for a capital project to build a prison, period. This is not the end of our responsibility. This is not the end of our discussion. This allows us to have the bigger conversation. With that, I appreciate a good vote.
All right, I got Senator. All right, I have at least 2 hands, or 3 or 4. We'll go with the roll call on the Senate side.
Yes, sir. Senator English. Yes. Senator Mark Johnson. Yes. Senator Hammer. Yes. Senator Tucker. No. Senator Payton. No. Senator Irvin. Yes. Senator Caldwell. No. Senator Flippo. Yes. Senator Blake Johnson. Yes. Senator Hill. No. Senator Sullivan. Yes. Senator Hester. Yes. Senator Letting. No. Senator King. No. Senator Penzo. Not seeing Senator Penzo. Senator Boyd. Yes. Senator Bryant. Yes. Senator Dees. Senator Flowers. Yes. Senator Clark. Senator Kroll. No. Senator Stubblefield. No. Senator Hickey. No. Senator Davis. Yes. Senator McGee. Yes. Senator Gilmore. Yes. Senator Rice. No. Senator Petty. Yes. Senator Wallace. Yes. Yes, sir. Call the House. Yes, sir.
Got 17 in the affirmative. We're going to the House.
Representative Matthew Shepard. Yes. Representative Holcomb. Yes. Representative Richmond. Yes. Representative Pilkington. Yes. Representative Warren. Yes. Representative Kavanaugh. Yes. Representative Lynch. Yes. Representative Evans. Yes. Representative Milligan. Yes. Representative Walker. First alternate, Representative Magruder. No. Representative Moore. Yes. Representative McGee. No. Representative Wooten. No. Representative Collins. No. Representative McCulloch. No. Representative Springer. No. Representative Hudson. No. Representative Garner. No. Representative Johnson. No. Representative Clowney. No. Representative Gramlich. Yes. Representative Scott Richardson. Yes. Representative Burks. Yes. Representative Eves. Yes. Representative Wardlaw. Representative Lundstrom. Yes. Representative Gazaway. You want to vote? 16 yeses.
All right, that's 16 in the affirmative. The bill is adopted. Is due passed. Members, right quick, we'll be back in here on Wednesday, April 2nd. And before that, when you come back on Tuesday, we got personnel at 8 and special language at 9. Appreciate your work. We are adjourned.